Hey guys, so I am going to be starting a new web series here on this channel, and I have an MK4 Supra here, a 98. It's an automatic turbo car, and I am doing a automatic to T56 swap using the Grannas Racing swap kit. So over the next couple of weeks, I'll be documenting this process and what it kind of entails, and maybe any pitfalls that I particularly run in. This is all new territory for me, so I think this should be fun. Now, what comes with this kit is you get a bell housing that adapts a 2JZ to your T56, as well as a cross member. The mount for it is up back here. You get a polyurethane mount. You get a Dakota digital box that helps to set your speedometer accurately, some electrical pigtails and things, clutch alignment tool, you get a pilot bearing, hardware, ARP hardware, a lot of hardware up the wazoo. You're gonna get a lot of hardware, guys, so keep track of this when you get this kit, because there is a lot of hardware. Brake pedal, you get a clutch pedal back here. It's all one big assembly, which is kind of nice. You also get this little cover, which is a nice little touch. Kind of makes it an OEM finish on the inside. Granted, you won't see it because the panel will be on top of it, but that is there to kind of seal it up from the underside so you don't get any moisture or maybe smells or anything weird like that coming through that area. I'll get to the clutch in a minute here and why I chose that clutch. Some of the other things you're gonna get the shifter panel, which I have in here, so it's just a interior panel piece, and then this long box down here is a drive shaft. So yeah, that kind of includes all of what you're gonna get in one of these kits. Now, I opted for a couple extras, which I think just make the car a little nicer. Little cone boots here, as well as a Grannas Racing shift knob. You can use what comes with the T56. It's like a ball knob, I think, or something, but I just wanted to use that. I thought it would make it look a little bit cleaner on the inside. Now, one of the things I alluded to is I have a clutch here. I went with the McLeod, I'm not sure how you say it. It is the RXT 1200 HD. I think it's got a little heavier duty pressure plate, or yeah, I think so. And that makes it handle upwards of about 1,000 wheel torque. I won't be pushing anywhere near that, but it's kind of nice to have it as a little future-proof. Plus, drivability of it, the chatter is non-existent. This clutch is supposed to be like a really well put together clutch that can hold power and is easily drivable. So that's kind of all three things that you really want in a clutch. So I took the chance on that. We'll see how well that works out. As you can see, though, I don't have the actual T56. So Tremec has those T56 back ordered at this time, so that's why I don't have it. So what we can do, though, is we can get a head start on starting to pull apart the car, pull apart the interior, we can get the pedals in place, get the master cylinder in place, put the clutch in, all that good stuff. And I will keep you guys posted as how that progresses. So this is all new territory for me. I primarily work with automatics and things like that in the past, pulling those and putting in different ones and so forth. But so this is kind of all new, and we'll be learning this, I guess, a little bit together. I probably will have some questions for you guys, and I'm sure you may have questions of me as this progresses. But all right, so to start, I'm just taking off the exhaust. The catback's already off. I'm gonna leave this mid-pipe. I just loosen it up front so I can swing it out enough. So I should be able to get the trans and the drive shaft out up there. Otherwise, the only things I've really done is just take out one of these cross members that was sitting right here, and there was another heat shield, which is back there, that I took off. Some 10mm bolts, 13mm bolts, nothing too crazy. That all comes out pretty good. So I'm getting pretty close to having a drive shaft accessible. But since I'm on a 4-post lift, I'm probably gonna have to suspend the rear end in the air a little bit so I can unload the tires and the wheels so I can spin it and get to the top bolts on the drive shaft. And then I should be able to get that out and start to unhook all of the connectors on the transmission. Now, I still got to get inside the car. One of the things that Joel starts out in his videos is that he loosens up all the bolts on the shifter column and the interior trim panels. I'll do that a little bit, when I get closer to actually starting to move around the transmission. But for now, I'm just gonna work under here since I already have the car in the air and everything. So, alrighty, so I got the drive shaft out. I actually didn't have to dick around with the back end too much. As long as if you got enough wobbly extensions, you can kind of sneak this up and over the drive shaft to get those bolts on the rear differential. Same thing with the back of the transmission too. So you know, you don't have to get too fancy with it, but if you got enough of these little wobbly extensions, you should be able to snake it without having to really worry about putting it in neutral and doing all that other shit. Some other things too is the linkage back here for the shifter. There's a little pin on this side. You just pull that and it slides out easy. You don't have to mess around with this bolt, at least I didn't, and it comes out simple. So there's nothing really to mess around with. There's a lot of like little braces and shit you gotta remove. There's the center section piece for the drive shaft that comes out. I did that last and I found that to be easier. Instead of worrying about the back end or the front end smacking me in the face, I kind of just did the back, then the front, then the middle last, and it was fine. So pretty easy so far, pretty smooth sailing. I'm just trying to keep tabs on all the bolts and stuff that I'm pulling. I don't intend to put the automatic back in this, but at the same time, I'm gonna keep it, and I wanna bag and tag every single set of bolts that you get. So for example, you know, you pull this guy out, this brace, and there's 4 or 6 bolts, and I've got them in there and I labeled it. So I'll tape that to that bracket and I'll always know, hey, those are the bolts that go with it. Otherwise, if there's a bolt that can thread back on, like let's say on the back of the automatic up here, these 4 bolts that hold the drive shaft, I just kind of thread them back on there and leave them there, and in this way, I don't lose them. So bag and tag what you can, or put the bolts back into the locations where they were before. There's a piece of heat shielding here and here, so I just put the nut back on and tighten it down, and I won't lose it. Hopefully not anyway. But anyway, so far things are going good. I've got a few things up here with this transmission that are a little different than I think stock. I don't really know what this is. It was hooked up to a ground off of the fuel filter bracket over here, and then it goes into the oil pan. So I don't know if this is like a pickup for the trans temperature, you know, the trans fluid temperature. That's what I'm thinking anyway. And then there's a blue wire that just goes back into the body somewhere. So maybe that hooks into ProEFI or something. I'm not 100% sure. I mean, I know I can see trans temperature on my CAN gauge, the BTI gauge. So I'm guessing that's what that probably is. I might just cut this and then like, you know, just put some electrical tape around the end and then like zip tie it out of the way. Maybe write a little note on that, you know, blue tape, just so that I remember what it was and what it supposedly did. And if I need to hook it back up, I'll just solder it together and put some heat shrink on it. So now I can go up above and loosen up the shifter. So I can take care of some of the interior stuff, I think. Okay, so I decided I wanted to try to take out the torque converter bolts, and one of the problems that you have is that when you try to loosen the converter bolt, it's going to want to turn over the motor, so you have to hold it in the front on the crank pulley with a breaker bar. And I don't have somebody to help me, but since I have a lift and I have this pan, it actually works out quite well for me to wedge my breaker bar in there, and then when I start to tighten it, it just goes against the metal floor of the pan, and I'm actually able to loosen these up pretty easily, which is nice. And then, I mean, you're not supposed to loosen it up on the crank pulley, but I'm gonna have to kind of back it out and then recenter and then crank it to the crank it clockwise a little bit so that I can get to the next converter bolt. But this is a good way to do it if you only got one person and you don't have another one to hold the crank pulley for you. So anyway, just another little trick and tip that could help you. Alrighty, I think I'm done for the night up here, or under here I should say. Got the drive shaft out. I got the flywheel, not the flywheel, I'm sorry, the torque converter bolts backed out. There's 6 of them total, they're up there. I'm surprised how short those are, but I guess if it works, it works. I haven't loosened any of the bolts on the bell housing yet. Haven't touched the main support here yet either. Cross member there for the trans. Do that stuff tomorrow. I'll probably drop the car down tonight, and then tomorrow I'll start working on the interior, loosen up the shifter, get that out of here, and then yeah, we'll probably start working on dropping the trans. I also got to work on this guy back here. Probably take out the bolts to each of the axles here, and then there's like 4 main bolts that hold that pumpkin in. Take that out, and like I said, I got that spare over there in the corner to throw in for the time being, and then I'll have this guy rebuilt since it has the TRD LSD in it. So yeah, everything is pretty simple in terms of taking it apart. I'm just trying to take my time with it, just because I've never taken one of these cars apart before, and you know, just trying to keep track of things so that, I don't know, make mental note of how things are, so when they go back together, it makes it that much easier. So anyway, drop the car and do the interior next. All right. Oh, you know what? Also, I'm gonna get under the hood. There's a bolt for the, what you wanna call it up here, the dipstick tube that I gotta loosen up, as well as like the front radiator mounts, just to give it a little bit of play when I go to lean it back. All right, so from up top, all I did was remove that bolt holding the dipstick tube down there, so that's free. Unhook the battery terminal. I loosened up these guys and just swung them out of the way, so there's play there now. And the other thing too is I don't know how I didn't know if this would cause an issue, but I just loosened up this clamp just to give it some give if it needs to break from that seal when I rock the motor back to get to the bell housing bolts. So anyway, I'll just leave that loose like that. And I think we're good to close the engine bay. Alrighty. So in here, this was kind of a little bit of a pain in the butt, but not bad. So there's 2 screws in the back here that hold the armrest in place, and then there's one up here, and then one right, I think this one right here? I don't know, it's up front here somewhere, but there's basically 4. And then the whole armrest will come out. You gotta pop the little panel that sits around the shifter, that's all out. The bigger pain in the ass is just trying to remove all the clips and everything that hold the wire harness in place and all these connectors, which I did. One of the problems that I had was that the speaker wire, this was not my doing, but somebody ran it through this metal bracket, and if you look, it's not like you can just unbolt this bracket. It was looped through here, so either cut the bracket or cut the cable. I can always replace one of these cables. I don't know if I can always ever replace one of these shifter linkages. I mean, I could always fab that up, but whatever. So I cut that. I'll have to solder that back together and make it nice. But anyway, yeah, this whole thing does come out as one unit. It's just a pain in the ass to get all of the bolts and clips and shit that hold it in place, but it all comes out as one big unit. And then you got this nice big gaping hole here. So actually, I think this is going to clean it up quite a bit. Just less moving parts in here and stuff. But yeah, that's pretty much it. And you can see down all the way to the ground. So yeah, and I guess I'm gonna probably zip tie some of this stuff kind of up and out of the way, and then I got a couple sheets in the garage here I'll lay around, so that when I do get ready to start cutting in here, you know, I won't be flinging around metal shavings everywhere. But yeah, that wasn't too bad. Like I said, I kind of ran into an issue with this guy. It took me more time to figure out the stupid clips than it was to unbolt the thing and get the cover out of the way. But yeah, that's so far going pretty good. So I'm gonna go ahead and let this guy drain, and then I'll probably unhook this guy. There should be no more fluid coming out of that. And then I will remove some of those zip ties up there and start to work on relieving the wire harness and whatever else is hooked up there. So that will be my next step, but we'll let this guy drain out first. Alrighty, so I went ahead and loosened up those two trans cooler lines. They are completely free now. You want to make sure you use a flare wrench on it, something like this, just because you can potentially strip it with a regular wrench. So try to use something like this. It's 17 millimeter. Mine were in there really, really tight, but they came out with some convincing. So now we should be able to drop this guy, I'm hoping pretty easily. I don't think there's anything else that is gonna bind up on it. So I'm gonna bring it down slowly and try to scoot it back so that the dipstick will follow. Another thing too that I didn't realize is that the starter is on the motor side of the bell housing bolted in. So I had a nice little how you do when I unbolted the two bolts that hold it in place, and it kind of clunked down. I didn't realize it was going to fall like that. I thought maybe there was another bolt maybe holding it in or something. Not the case. So yeah, just be careful or mindful of the starter there. That's going to definitely play into it. So we should be able to lower this guy just down. I'm watching to make sure it doesn't start to rock on my trans jack here. Seems like it's coming down pretty good. Just gonna move it back a touch. Yeah, there's enough electrical connectors on here. Jesus Christ. Okay, we'll lower it down some more. Oh, well, dipstick just came out. That's good, and I think we're good. Bring it down. Well, there goes one of my trans tubes, making a mess all over the damn place, but oh well. Yeah, this guy's coming down pretty good. I got a hand on the tail because it does feel a little front heavy with that converter probably still being filled with quite a bit of fluid. So, you know, just make sure you handle this stuff well. Smart man would have put a ratchet strap around it or a chain. Unfortunately, you're dealing with me today. So, yeah, sorry. But yeah, she is good. Don't mind the garbage truck outside. There we go. And she's out. Not too bad. It is quite front heavy, so I mean, if I let it go, it's okay, but I wouldn't leave it like this. So I'll probably throw a ratchet strap around this until I can move it to the ground. But yeah, she is out. Not too bad. Like I said, it's got enough electrical connectors on it. Holy shit. I think GM there's like 3, and that's all you get. So, but yeah, taking this trans out is not too bad, actually. Just be mindful of it as it's coming out. It's gonna wanna rock around and do some weird shit on you, so always keep a hand on it, and preferably back by the tail shaft for sure. So, fucker. Alrighty. So as you can see, bam, we have the transmission is out, without a doubt. So now I could probably take an impact gun to the flywheel, get that guy off, and then I can take a look at my rear main seal. I think it might be leaking, so I'm probably just gonna go ahead and replace it since I'm in there. I mean, it's a $30 part, and it'll take all of maybe 10 minutes. So as you can see, we have the transmission pulled out of the car. That's pretty good first day, I think. I could have probably done this a lot faster if I was familiar with this car, but trying to take my time, and I think anybody can about do this as long as you get the right tools. Use a breaker bar to get those and to get the bell housing bolts loose. I found that worked out good. And I also have a 36-inch extension with a couple of wobblies, because you gotta really finagle getting over the transmission to the top bolts, even the ones on the side. I think the top bolts were actually easier once you can sag the trans down. The ones on the sides were actually a bit more of a pain in the ass. And then also be mindful of the starter, that'll fall out at you. So I didn't realize that, and well, yeah, so, but no harm, no foul. It just kind of fell up there underneath where that key member of the engine main cross braces. So it worked out all right. So yeah, I will go ahead and clean up for the day. Like I said, there's a couple other odds and ends that I'll probably get to, but the bulk of it is out, and then I can start working on the tunnel to open up that hole a little bit more for the sticky shifter, as well as start on the flywheel, get that out of there, and then our flywheel or flex plate, whatever you want to call it, get that guy out of there, replace the rear main seal if it's oily, and then yeah, we'll go from there. So stay tuned. I'll have more videos for you guys. If you guys find this helpful, please like the video, leave a comment. If you saw me do something stupid or you want to know how to maybe go about something, I'll tell you how well things kind of worked out for me. Anyway, take care, and I will be making another video here soon.